All right, today we're building the Bison. First thing you're going to want to do is go through your hardware kit and track down the longest pin. There is one that is 5 millimeters longer than the rest. Pull it aside, that's going for your sear. Next part would be, we're going to assemble the receiver area called the grip section. Trigger goes in with one of the short 20 millimeter pins. The trigger yoke ends up sitting right between those two notches. I'm going to use the barrel as a tool to help get the springs in place because that kind of keeps it there. The trick is put them in, push them into place, and then get them underneath the wings. I'm going to do this while I can see it, and I'll show you the result. This is the hardest part of the whole build, right here. One. Oh no. There we go. Two. See, the yoke is capturing, or is captured by the wings and on the top of the grip section. Next thing that goes down is the front. It needs to be out a little bit to capture the trigger. There, now you have a functional trigger. Throw 4 screws in that. Okay, over here, let's do the trigger guard. Yours probably doesn't have a hole in it. It's just held in with tension. Grip rear goes over top of that. There's 4 screws holding it in place. All right, we're going to take 4 pins here, 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 and here. And then we're going to put the front stop with the flat side going towards the back. Okay. Plunger rod goes down that hole and is captured by the aptly named plunger rod holder. That gets 2 screws. That's up. Okay, that assembly is done. Moving on. Let's do the slide next. Slide, got the plunger tube, sear. Do that on final assembly. Sear spring and that long 30 millimeter pin you just set aside. plunger tube goes in. It will be long. It should be cut down to this height. Cutting these perfectly is virtually impossible, so I give you a little bit extra, and then it gets cut down to match that, just like an elk. Sear, there's a little divot for the spring, and then that gets installed on the back of the slide. There we go. Check function. Springs in the right place. Begin with our slide for now. Let's just do the stock next. Magwell front slides into a groove right at the front of the magwell. Again, aptly named part. Pulled in with 4 screws. Okay. Mag release, small spring, one of the 25mm pins goes in the divot. Give a little compression to hold it in. Slide it in place and watch the spring. That again. 25mm pin goes through. Sure everything. Yep. Necessary, glue this thing together so it doesn't do that. I'm in a hurry. Feels right. Okay. Spring, check function. There's optional bits for a sling. Go here, here. Two screws hold it on this side. All right, we're also going to grab our rails and put these through the back. It's easier to do this when the whole thing's essentially disassembled. The rails are going to go through. Could probably potentially be easier just to feed them from this direction. Lefty holes to do that. Line it up. Use your 1.5-inch 1032 bolt as a pin. It doesn't necessarily screw in, but it can. That's your stock done. So next up, to do the muzzle. Oh. Yeah, we'll leave that as a finishing step. Muzzle. You're going to want a full-length dart or an N1 dart. This is one of the few times where an N1 dart is useful. The B-car bearings are angled toward the muzzle, which is this end. Drop it in on top of your dart to get it lined up. Stab it with something sharp. And then chase that back with a pin. No, I'm not doing that 9 times on camera. All right, next up is the tension block. Tension block gets a 1032 nut through that little slot. It goes into the back with the nut facing the rear. You'll know you have it right when that little hole lines up with the slot up there. Use another 1032 1.5 inch bolt to capture that. Keep the hole towards the back for now, just until we figure out how long the bars are going to be once this thing's assembled. Okay, muzzle's done. And next up, let's take our receiver, slide plunger that you got. The O-ring goes on the front notch. On the turnaround, large O-ring goes here. 2 small O-rings go around the pusher. Around the pusher. I'll just leave it at 1 for now. All right. Fun stuff here. I'm going to include the spring spacer for this because I'm using a shorter spring at the moment. Right now we get putting in a 7/8 spring. Any shorter spring is going to need the spacer. It's designed to specifically for a full length K25. Going too much shorter and you end up with shorting the piston. All right. Plunger rod cover goes over plunger rod, plunger itself. That's dropped in here. Probably put in a little bit of lube. This is already lubed. If it's got a bunch of pre-compression, just stab it down. We're going to put the washer and the lock nut back on like we did, like you found it when it arrived. So. Tighten that down, it'll be the length of, it'll tighten down against the plunger rod cover. Next up is the receiver. This gets 2 screws. And our turnaround goes on the back. On one side, you'll see that there is a divot for a M3 nut, and other side gets an M3 bolt. So it's designed this way to make spring swaps less damaging to the blaster, since you don't have to actually screw into plastic to make this work. So yeah, it squeaks a lot now. That all, it's all being held together. So main receiver section is done. We'll do top rail next. These 4 pieces fit together like a puzzle. Threaded rod. The nut on this end, there is a little hexy shape at the back of the 3rd piece that falls off. Do that. back, keep that flush. Each section has 2 pins, 2 of the 20mm pins holding it in alignment. Okay. And then one of the nuts, other 1032 nut comes up here, tighten it down pretty good. But again, kind of leave as little rod as you can out of the back. And we got more 20mm pins. Front section, line up the hex with the orientation of the nut. There we go. And 2 more 20mm pins. Okay. Yeah. Carry handle's done. Let's see. Muzzle. Midframe. Let's grab both bits. Final assembly. No, not final assembly. What do you do first? Alright, I'm only going to install one of these rollers to show you. There's divots for them in the top and bottom. There's one on the top front, this being the top front, bottom front, and then bottom rear. The one that's kind of the most important is the bottom rear, and that's all I've been using on mine. The bottom one gets 20mm pins to hold it in place. The top two the bottom two use 20mm pins. The top one uses a 25mm pin. We're going to take our slide rail, install it in the shuttle. Make sure your holes line up. If they don't, file out this little bit. The quality of these is going to improve over time, but for now I'm still doing this by hand. There's little hexy divots for nuts on one side, and then your last 2 M3 bolts come in from here. Using bolts on this because of the stresses. This has had a bad tendency of coming apart. See, even on mine, I've got some quality control things going on here. There we go. Okay, that's nice and tight. And here, might as well throw the vertical grip on. One side's a little more curvy than the other. 2 M4 nuts on one side, 2 M4 screws on the other. Tighten as you can. Any wiggle here is going to translate to a bad prime experience. Okay. Final assembly, final assembly. let's get priming bar in. There's a slot here that will interface with the slide, and then there's 2 holes that you can get your pins in. This takes the 25mm pins to hold it in place. Just make sure those are flush inside so they don't rub on the inside of your slide. Pump grips installed. Okay, on the front we've got 4 25mm pins. And then the midframe goes on. You can line up the checkering to make sure you know which side's which. Next up, 4 more 25mm pins. Barrel should start right up to the edge here. And our muzzle. All right, stop. 2 slots underneath the slide. These line up with. Okay. Now we will adjust the muzzle tension ring thing to line up the hole with where the rod actually landed. Rod in place. 1032 goes through. There we go. And then use this up here to tension it. Get a little bit tight, not super tight because it can wreck the plastic. Let's get the butt plate on. 6 screws, which conveniently are already installed. Works. There's 5 screws holding the carry handle on with 5 nuts along the back. last step, let's talk magazines. Magazines. Okay. I've got my drum spring, goes through the slot here. Demonstration purposes, a piece of string, a piece of filament to run it through the loop. And then run it through the loop. Long for this one. Pull that loop down. That. Follow and knock the little chunk of plastic that comes in as your support material. Oh, if I did this right. There we go. That looks a little better. This function cap how it goes on only one way. And that's going to make a 20-round magazine. Hope that all came out and is helpful, because I'm not going to try to do another take. Enjoy your bison and have a good day.